Hi, this is Christina Cat 3. I'm going to do a review of Avatar: The Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan. I actually saw this movie before I watched book 1, and I'm actually really glad I did that because I was able to just appreciate the movie for what it was. I mean, the bending was perfect. Like, each element was very likable, very believable, and that's a huge thing for me, like, because when you're dealing with something that's fantastical like Avatar or whatever, when you translate it into a movie, it needs to be believable. And also, it was just visually stunning. Like, just everything, all the set pieces were perfect. Like, I actually was really taken aback by the Northern Water Tribe. The ice fortress, like the walls were just perfect. I was just like, wow, they actually constructed that shit, and it looks beautiful. And so I was just really awestruck by that. So the bending, all the CGI, I found to be very good, very enjoyable. The characters were very likable, very believable. I thought the acting was pretty good. Now, like, I had actually been speaking to my brother, and he told me about, like, this race bending, and how the fact that the characters that were cast were not, all Asian was a huge, like, issue now. And personally, for me, it didn't bother me that, like, each nation was kind of a different race. So it was really kind of 4 separate nations, and I actually thought that lended itself to just the visibility of, the 4 nations as separate, especially since there's a war going on. You got, like, the Water Tribe, which are kind of like, well, all the people in the background were, like, Eskimos or whatever, but the 2 main of the 3, Gran, Sokka, or Sokka as they call him in the movie, and Katara were kind of, they weren't brown like they were supposed to have been from the show, so I thought that was kind of weird. But other than that, that was cool. And then you had the Fire Nation, they were kind of like Indian, and then you had the Earthbenders, which were they looked Asian, like kind of like Chinese or whatever. They looked like Asian. And then you had of course the air nomads. They were like Tibetan monks or whatever. So I thought that, like, the 4 different races, I thought that kind of added a cool element to it, and it didn't bother me. So I would say, like, my review before watching book 1 was, I'd say I'd give it like a 9.5 out of 10, just because of, again, the believability, like how they did the CGI, how they made it look, the casting, the characters, how good their acting was. The actual progression of the story I thought was really cool, and especially since I had not seen the series, it was very easy for me to follow. But so with that said, I think before watching it, I would say I'd give it like a 9 out of 10. Now, after watching book 1, I took notice of things that they took out and things that they kind of warped for Hollywood believability's sake, which kind of took the rating down for me. One huge thing that they took out or kind of changed was Katara. In the show, she was a very strong character, and she was also kind of nurturing for Aang and all that, and I really found that to be cool. But when it was time to fight, she was that strong waterbending character, and just throughout the show, she does a lot of things that are very powerful. So one of the key things that they took out, well, they just took it out, was when they get to the Northern Water Tribe, and Aang gets there, like, hey, I'm the Avatar, train me. So they go to train him, and so the master tells them, okay, come back tomorrow, and you'll start your training, and bring your friend. Aang had not told him that his friend was Katara, a female. Now, so when they get there, the master's like, no, we don't train women to do waterbending to fight. We train the women to use their waterbending to heal. So she was bummed or whatever, and he wouldn't teach her. So afterwards, they get an idea, like, well, how about Aang teaches her what he learned in class, so that way she learns, he learns, everybody's happy. So the master catches Aang teaching her, and so he tells him, you're not my student anymore. So the next day, they go back to the Water Tribe, and they plead their case to get the master to teach Aang again. And so the master tells Katara to apologize to him, to swallow her pride and apologize to him, and she's like, no, you know what, come outside if you're man enough to fight me. And I was just like, whoa, she threw the gauntlet at that motherfucker, right? So he goes outside, and of course he's a master, she's not gonna win, but she wants to prove a point. point being is that you're wrong in saying that you shouldn't train me just because I'm a woman. And so that they have this epic fight. I mean, she's doing shit. There's like one part where she makes this like big ice cylinder, and she's just taking her hands and just like taking these discs and just throwing them at him. And there's one scene where it comes within inches of his face and almost like cuts his ass, right? And so they have this fight, and of course she doesn't win, but she gains his respect, and so he allows her to train. And then the next episode, the first scene, she's whooping on all the boys there, and they're all like, no, I don't want to rematch with her. So he tells her that she's advanced faster than anybody he's ever trained, and so she earns that respect. And so I thought that was one of the things that they took out of the movie, which kind of diminished her strength, which I had a big problem with. And just other things like the fight between Katara and Zuko when he tries to take Aang towards the end when he's meditating. That fight was way better in the series, and it was basically she had beaten him really, but of course when the sun came up and the moon went away, she kind of lost power and he gained power, so he was able to kind of overtake her or whatever. So I thought that just her character was kind of diminished in the movie, which I had a huge problem with. Of course they didn't turn her into a cream puff or nothing, but it was a little bit less for me, so that kind of took away from it. And Sokka, or Sokka as they call him in the movie, he wasn't really that funny in the movie, and in the show he's very funny. He's always the one that's kind of like happy, joking around and stuff. And his strength in the show is his mind. There's a lot of episodes where his plans, his cunning are kind of what saves the day. So even though he's not that strong of a fighter, his kind of comedy or whatever, and his mind, his strategy or whatever is key. And so he's a very pivotal part of the whole little team. So they kind of toughened him up in the movie and diminished his funniness. And so I kind of thought that, I don't know, maybe they kind of should have kept him, kind of balanced out his strength with his comedy or whatever. But that's just me. And just certain other events in the show that they kind of left out, like the part where they go to the temple so that Aang can talk to Avatar Roku. That they kind of left out the part where it's in the Fire Nation and they have this huge fight or whatever to get him in there and get him out. And so it's just certain things that were kind of warped, and I know why they warped them for Hollywood's sake or whatever. But I just thought that the things that they left out, for example, the Kyoshi Warriors, again, I thought that they were really cool, powerful female characters, and the way that Sokka kind of gave them that respect and asked them to train him, I thought that was really cool, and I would have loved to have seen them. But again, I'm partial because I'm a woman, I like to see women empowered and all that shit, so. But I can kind of understand that the Kyoshi Warriors, and those small arcs along the way for them to get to the Northern Water Tribe are not essential to the plot. I understand that. I don't like it, but I understand it. Another huge, not really huge, but another change that was in the movie versus the show was Aang's character. In the show, he's very playful. He's very, he sometimes doesn't even walk. He just kind of floats on air. He just has that childlike aloofness that that you would expect from a 12-year-old, and from someone who has not fully realized his place as the Avatar. And of course, when he fights or whatever, he does get serious, but for the most part, he's very playful, very childlike, and the whole journey in Book 1 is kind of getting him to the point where he can master the 4 elements. And so in the movie, his playfulness is kind of toned down a little bit, and I do understand kind of why they did that. It's because you only have so much runtime, and so he does have to accomplish a lot of things in the movie to help the story along, and so possibly the super playful let's go penguin sledding or whatever might not be the best way to go for the duration of the movie. I mean, he does have certain moments where he's really, really happy, but for the most part, his character is a little bit more serious. Not much more serious, but a little bit more serious. So my huge problem is that the things that they decided to leave in, they could have expanded on them more and allowed for more character development and plot development with the things they decided to leave in, which were the core things. So yeah, that was my major problem with the differences between the show and the movie. So, you know, like I said before, I gave it like a 9 out of 10. Now I'd say I'd give it like maybe like an 8.25 out of 10, just because it was still a great movie, but the things that they took out, they could have expanded on, it could have been better. So yeah, that's me signing off. My differences between the movie. So rate, comment, reply. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Thanks. Bye-bye.